Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the council public meeting for Tuesday, May the 13th at 7 o'clock. A couple of things before we get started. So just to let everybody know that's here in council chambers, but also watching online, this is a council public meeting, not a regular council meeting, which means that this is a step that we take under the Planning Act to introduce a new application once the application is complete. So we have two applications tonight, which we'll hear, but no final decisions on this application are being made. So the council will not make a decision on whether to approve or not approve this. This is the very beginning of the process. There's a lot more analysis and input, which is why we're here tonight, to get input from the public that needs to be done before we get to some sort of eventual approval of a given application. So that's the approval take. You'll hear in a minute that the council, when it's council's turn to speak, one of the councillors will make a motion to receive all comments and refer them back to our planning staff for further analysis. So that will be the only motion that will pass for each of these two applications tonight. The other thing I just wanted to make clear is on the website, there is available a staff report for each one of these applications. It's a preliminary staff report that kind of, outlines some of the details of what the application is all about. But you're certainly welcome, and I would encourage you to read the staff report, which is available on the website. I will warn you, it's probably not as interesting as a great novel, but if you find it not interesting, you can read it before bedtime. It'll help you to sleep. So with that being said, the public hearing statement: if a person or public body or specified person does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Richmond Hill in respect of a proposed official plan amendment or zoning bylaw amendment, the person, public body, or specified person is not entitled to appeal the decision of the City Council to the Ontario Land Tribunal and may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So with that being said, I'll call the meeting to order. The first item is adoption of the agenda. Councillor Tree, Councillor Thompson, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Anybody have a disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none. Okay, so as I said, we have two items tonight, and the way that this will work is the staff will outline the application, and after that, the applicant will have 5 minutes to outline the application, and then following that, we'll open it up to the public to speak about what they would like to. So if there's any members of the public here that would like to speak to any of the applications tonight, you're free to do so. You'll have 5 minutes to speak to council. Okay, so the first person to speak then is our one of our planning staff, Elaine Leung. So Elaine, come on up and tell us what we've got in front of us tonight.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor West, members of council and the public. The first item tonight involves official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment applications to permit a medium density residential development on lands municipally known as 1501 19th Avenue. The subject lands are located on the southeast corner of 19th Avenue and Leslie Street. The lands have a total lot area of approximately 1.13 hectares or 0.33 acres in area, and lot frontage of approximately 38 meters along Leslie Street and 25 meters along 19th Avenue. The lands currently support a 1.5-story single detached dwelling and detached garage, which are proposed to be demolished to facilitate the proposed development. Surrounding uses include 19th Avenue to the north, beyond which are rural and agricultural lands, including lands within the Oak Ridges Moraine, to the immediate north and west, and medium density residential development in the form of townhouses to the east and the south. which are currently under construction as part of Registered Plan Subdivision 65M-4762, also known as the Leslie Richmond Developments. The lands are currently designated Employment Corridor in accordance with the North Leslie Secondary Plan Area, which is intended to accommodate a range of industrial and office use developments. However, notwithstanding the above, the North Leslie Secondary Plan provides for medium-density residential development. The applicable policies regarding medium-density residential development include permissions for a full range of residential types, including single detached, semi-detached, duplex, triplex, quadruplex, block townhouse, and back-to-back townhouses. Further policies within the secondary plan permits live, work, build form, however, within the mixed-use commercial/residential designation. With respect to the current zoning, the subject lands are zoned agriculture, A1, as under zoning bylaw 2523-86 as amended. Through these applications, the applicant is seeking approval to permit a medium-density residential development consisting of 13 three-story townhouse units on a private common element condominium road. Vehicular access to the subject lands is to be provided via a connecting driveway from the abutting Leslie Richmond Developments subdivision. The applicant's official plan amendment application seeks to amend the policies of the North Leslie Secondary Plan Area to redesignate the lands to medium density to permit medium density residential uses in the form of stacked townhouse dwellings that include live-work permissions, and also to increase the maximum permitted density within the medium density residential designation from 60 units per hectare to 95 units per hectare. The applicant's zoning bylaw amendment application seeks approval to rezone the subject lands to multiple residential 4, RM4, as amended, with site-specific provisions to implement the development proposal. It is noted that related draft plan of subdivision and draft plan of condominium applications have also been submitted in conjunction with the OPA and ZBLA applications. The proposed draft plan of subdivision, if approved, would result in the establishment of 2 separate parcels, 1 condominium townhouse block and 1 regional road widening block. The proposed draft plan of condominium, if approved, would serve to establish common element condominium tenure. Staff have circulated the applications to internal departments and external agencies for review and comment. The purpose of the report is to provide council and the public with an overview of the applicant's development proposal and has been structured for information purposes only, with a recommendation that all comments be referred back to staff for consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So for the applicant, we have Jonathan Sassos from Humphreys Planning Group, who I don't think is here, but is going to be joining us virtually. So Mr. Sasso, I can see you on the screen. You need to turn your camera on, and you've got 5 minutes to address council.
Good afternoon. I'm just having some difficulties establishing my connection to my camera. I apologize for that. I do not have a presentation for the committee this evening. My counterpart at the city had done an excellent job at describing the development proposal and giving a high-level overview of the policy framework, as well as the implementation of the various amendments that we are asking for. I'm simply here to answer any questions that members of the public or committee may have.
Okay, thanks a lot. So we don't have anybody else signed up then from the public to speak for this. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this particular application? Okay, come on up, sir. Yep, come on up. Speaking in the microphone, if you could just state your name and address for the record. And, oh, actually this one over here. And just bring it up a little bit. You're pretty tall. There you go. Okay. Just name and address for the record, and you've got 5 minutes to address council.
Azad Ghulam, 37 Sim Hill Crescent. I'm just here just to basically just to see what's happening in the application. I have family that lives in the area, and I just basically came to see how this meeting goes. Their concerns about the land was just that they were expecting a commercial plaza to go there, and they just wanted me to come here and just take a look at that. That was basically it. And they were worried about pretty much just that. Because in the secondary, I think she mentioned it, in the secondary zoning plan, it was originally planned for a plaza, and then now it's gonna be residential, but it's saying residential mixed use with commercial underneath. And there's already a townhouse down the street that has similar issues with no parking and stuff like that. So I just came to just get an idea of what's going on. That's pretty much it.
No, that's excellent comments, and that's exactly why we're here, so I'm glad you
Yeah,
came.
yeah.
What I would suggest, as I mentioned before, is take a look at on the
Exactly,
website.
yes.
The staff report will have a lot of the information that actually you know about already, but that would be something you might want to talk to them about as well.
Yeah, is that on the website where?
Yeah, if you go under the council meeting section and look for today's meeting, it'll be there.
It'll be there, okay,
You can
perfect.
pick that up.
So that was it.
Okay,
Well
thanks a
below
lot.
the 5 minutes.
Okay, no
Thank
problem.
you.
You can donate the 5 minutes to somebody else. Thanks a lot. Okay, so we don't have anybody else then from the audience, is that correct? Okay, no, bring this back to Councillor Liu, who's the ward councillor for this area. And Councillor, you'll be willing to move a motion to refer all comments back to staff? Absolutely. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Elaine, for your presentation. Thanks for the applicant for coming here tonight, and also Azad for expressing your views. First thing first, through you, Mr. Mayor, to staff. So was there a contemplation that there will be a plaza on this piece of land? Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, the lands were actually designated employment. So they weren't actually commercial lands. They were employment lands. There was a little bit of employment lands at the north end of the North Leslie Secondary Plan. Some of them have been removed, and these are one of the smaller parcels that are being considered for removal as part of the city's larger employment land review. The province has also provided the opportunity for employment land conversions, which this would be considered to be reviewed as part of an application. So it was actually employment lands which did not permit commercial uses.
Okay, so thank you. So, okay. Well, thank you, Clerk, for getting the information and showing the resident, I think, the agenda. All right, so thank you very much, Deborah. So it still has to conform with the PPS 2024.
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, that is correct.
Thank you very much. All right, so but I with this application, I don't have a big issue on this one because it's already surrounded by townhouses. I think as stated in the staff report, there's a few I think issues that needs to be addressed. First of all, is the relocation of the visitor parking on page 8 of the report, and I think the applicant should take note on that. And also staff stated that, it's better to divide into 2 separate blocks instead of 113 block. And also there's problem with waste collection. And I assume also snow removal too at the same time. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just have one question because was the applicant's proposing is 95.8 units per hectares, and which our standard is 60 units per hectares. So in order to conform with the 60 units per hectares, does that mean that they have to reduce the number of townhouses? Through Mr. Mayor.
Through the chair, the applicant has submitted actually an OPA application, which will also speak to the increase in density. We're also taking a look at this type of stacked townhouse that they are proposing, which is not our typical. Well, the parcel is quite small, so the density is quite high for that size of parcel. So we'll be evaluating it in context of what's been approved in the surrounding area, which may necessitate a higher density than what the North Leslie Secondary Plan calls for, but we will determine the appropriateness of that density. And they do have an OPA to facilitate that increase in density should we determine it's appropriate.
All right, thank you very much. And also there's an issue with the vehicular access through the adjacent subdivision. So there's still a lot of issues that need to be addressed. And And other than that, I don't have any comments on that. This is just the beginning of the whole process. So for that, you know us that. So if you have any issues, you want anything you need, let me know. I'm your ward councillor, or I'm the counselor for this application. You can reach me anytime. So unfortunately, it's up to the chair.
You guys. Okay, so, okay, thank you very much, Councillor. You're done?
Okay,
Okay,
we'll talk later.
yeah. Is there anybody else, or sorry, next person on the list was Councillor Davidson.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for everyone who came, and thank you to staff and the applicant. My question is about employment land. Does that mean that someone could put a daycare there? Is that employment land? Or like I'm all for walkable communities, but you're saying that employment land doesn't fit anything like a corner store or a hairdresser, or a dentist, or a daycare. That wouldn't be permitted on this land, even if we didn't change anything about it.
Through the chair to Councillor Davidson, that's correct. The employment corridor designation that applies to the lands are primarily dealing with industrial and office uses, and manufacturing, assembling, and processing type of uses. So daycare uses are not currently permitted in our employment area designations.
Thank you, through Mr. Chair. My last question is not really knowing the history of that area, and it is all built up, and it is an area that's growing with housing. Was the whole area at one point sort of employment, or it just seems such a small little corner? If you don't know offhand, we can talk offline, but it feels like maybe this is what's left of employment lands. Is that about right?
Through the chair to Councillor Davidson, yes, this is one of the remnant parcels. It was a very small area at the north end of the North Leslie secondary plan area. One was across the street that we're looking at doing a community center for the community for, and that was also considered. There's this piece, one piece on 19th Avenue, and a portion close to the 404 that still remains in employment lands. So we are doing an employment, as you know, we're doing an employment land review in the context of the legislation that came down at the end of last year to determine which pieces are still appropriate. Does it make sense? But further to that, the province also allowed for conversions that outside of a municipal comprehensive review process, which is why they're able to provide this application to us.
Thank you.
Okay, Regional Councillor Chan.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, staff, for our presentation. And we have the agent on the line there. Actually, it might echo some of the things that local council is asking. Specifically, I noticed on the slide number 6 on the presentation. So it's a block of 13 units. So if it were to be separated for every 6, would that be in some way lead to or result in lesser number of units? There's only so much land there. Through you, Mr. Chair.
Through the chair to Councillor Chan, possibly. Our citywide guidelines actually typically recommend recommend 8 units, the maximum being 8 units. Given the size of the site, 6 and 6 may be appropriate, and they may lose a unit in the process. Again, and that would just contribute to ensuring there's adequate separation between the 2 blocks, porosity on the site, just an overall better development rather than a long wall of homes, which is typically not found in this configuration across the city.
Thank you. Because I noted that it's meant to be a gateway. I mean, visually, I don't see that block as a gateway. Well, whatever, how you interpret that. So I noted that slide number 6, and that's I'm reacting to and ask a question. The other thing is that, help me understand from Mr. Chair, is that it's still not clear to me that this particular development, 13 or whatever number of units, would have direct access to a public road.
Through the chair to Councillor Chan, it does not have direct access to either of the arterial roads, and it would be solely dependent on access through the neighboring development, the Leslie Elgin developments. So they will need to facilitate cross easements with the neighboring development in order to facilitate access.
Okay, thank you. While we're looking at this development on its own, but if I understand it correctly, that means we'd have to collaborate, cooperate, whatever, with the, well, or actually the other way, the adjacent owner might have to make allowances, and so that's interesting. But we're still early, but I just wonder, this seems to be pose some challenges in my view. So thank you, Mr. Chair. Those are my comments.
Okay, anybody else on council? Councilor Thompson.
Thank you very much, and through you, the chair. I believe the local councillor certainly itemized a number of the things that certainly have popped up through the preliminary. But I guess I'm trying to sort out a little bit here, and I'm sure it's all has to do with legislation that we get this application and it's deemed complete, but we end up reading a report that has more questions than answers. And I think it makes it very difficult for us or even the public to be able to, formulate comments to feedback when there's not a lot of meat, I guess, to it. And, if you could, just say or say that, yes, legislation kind of hinders us a little bit in timing and things like that. And when the timing of the report actually has to be written, that type of stuff, if staff could actually just speak to that, it would be appreciated.
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson. So the purpose of the council public meeting really is to facilitate comments. So we try to schedule them as early as possible to make sure that we meet our legislative timelines, but really to get it out in front of the public as early as possible and solicit comments. So while the process is ongoing to make sure we are in a position to meet our legislative timelines, we try to get them out early, and they typically, as you'll see, tend to be just fact-based at this point, leaving all of the nuts and bolts to staff and the ability to go back and forth with the applicant. So it's really, early consultation to get feedback on, hey, what is council, what does the public think about the process? It's make sure we try to meet our legislative timelines. So that's why the council public meeting reports tend to be quite short, straight to the point, and not a lot of analysis at this point.
Mm-hmm. And thank you, and I appreciate that. So if I was Joe Public and I wanted to stay on top of this, because we know that there's a number of departments that haven't even reported yet, that type of thing, they could reach out to, and I believe you've got names at the bottom of the report there, is that correct? Yeah.
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, absolutely. That is the nature of kind of what we hope is that residents who have concerns or want to remain notified of what's going on with the application will reach out to staff. And formally, if they want to be notified, they reach out to the clerk's department so they can be notified of when the report comes back to council for consideration, so that any of their concerns that they may have had, they can identify whether they've been addressed or not.
Yeah, much appreciated. Thank you for that. When we're talking about the units and the recommendation to split it by 6, I was looking at the rendering that was shown, and I noticed that it appears that there's a firewall, and it's only separating, I guess 8. So is that the code? When you look at the rendering, it looked like you have that firewall that separates the units. Is that code?
So that appears to be the inclusion of a standard requirement from our fire services department. But again, that will be incorporated, whether it is 6 units or 8 units, that firewall requirement will be incorporated as per the code.
Okay, thank you. So I guess what I was trying to drive at is if they did go with the recommended 6 unit that you're talking about, would there be that requirement when you get to 6?
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, they may not need it. We'd
Right.
have to determine that through the code.
Got it. Okay. Those are all my questions at this point. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, I am a little concerned about the employment land issue, but can you just clarify for me? So in order for them to convert this from employment land to residential, they don't need to go through the region obviously anymore because that's out of the question. So it's completely up to us then, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So the land across the street with the P on it, I assume that's something we're contemplating at some point in time, but it's actually designated as employment as well.
To the chair, the P that you're on the west side of, Leslie, that's where the community center
I know.
is going to be.
Yeah.
So that one's been considered not going to be employment lands. So the only remaining parcel is there's one on the south side of 19th, just a little further east.
Yeah.
And
that's not viable as a, okay. All right. That's fine. All right. Well, I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the input from you, sir. Thank you so much. And we'll have this all referred back to staff, and staff will continue working with the applicant to try to come up with something that we can take a look at it in the future. So we have a motion in front of us then. All those in favor, opposed, that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. The next item tonight and the last item. Yeah, we got a seconder that was, I think it was Carol, yeah. Okay, so the next item is request for comments, official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment, Inspired Estate Inc., 11 Harris Avenue. And the for the city is our planner, Giuseppe Russo. So Mr. Russo, if you want to enlighten us on the application.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor West, members of council, and the public. The second public meeting tonight involves official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment applications to permit a high-density mixed-use development on the lands municipally known as 11 Harris Avenue. The subject lands are located at the southwest corner of Yonge Street and Harris Avenue. The lands have a total lot area of approximately 0.8 acres, lot frontage of approximately 50 meters on Yonge Street and 52 meters along Harris Avenue. The land support an existing single detached dwelling, which is proposed to be demolished to facilitate the development. The surrounding land uses include an existing used car dealership to the north, which is subject to development approval for an 8-story mixed-use development, Summit Golf and Country Club to the east, existing townhouses to the south, and medium-density residential, which is currently under construction to the west. The lands are designated regional mixed-use corridor in accordance with the city's official plan. The applicable policies allow for a medium and high-density residential land uses, as well as a full range of commercial, retail, and office uses. Development within this portion of the regional mixed-use corridor allows for a maximum building height of 6 stories with a maximum density of 2 FSI. With respect to the current zoning, the subject lands are zoned urban zone under zoning bylaw 128-4. Additionally, the lands are subject to the subject lands are within the centers and corridor and are identified as regional mixed-use corridor 2 zone under bylaw 3025. Through these applications, the applicant is seeking approval to permit a high-density mixed-use development to be comprised of 10-story apartment buildings with 119 dwelling units, approximately 269 square meters of commercial space at grade, indoor and outdoor amenity spaces, including a rooftop amenity area, and 3 levels of underground parking. The applicant's official plan amendment application seeks approval of site-specific exemptions to the regional mixed-use corridor designation to increase the permitted building height from 6 stories to 10 stories and increase the permitted density from 2 to 3.3 FSI. The applicant's zoning bylaw amendment seeks approval to rezone the subject lands to multiple residential 1 zone under bylaw 23597 as amended, with site-specific provisions to implement the development proposal. Staff has circulated the applications to internal departments and external agencies for review and comment. The purpose of the report is to provide council and the public with an overview of the applicant's development proposal, and it has been structured for information purposes only, with the recommendation that all comments be referred back to staff for consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So for the applicant is Daphne Gokson. Did I say that right?
You did, yeah.
All right. From Innovative Planning Solutions. So you've got 5 minutes to address council.
Okay, great. Good evening. My name is Daphne Gokson from Innovative Planning Solutions, as just mentioned. I'm here tonight representing the proposed development at 11 Harris Avenue, which is just south of the intersection of Jefferson Side Road and Yonge Street. And we are requesting an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment. There we go. As staff already mentioned, it's about 0.3 hectares and a corner lot fronting Yonge and Harris, which currently has a vacant single detached dwelling. So I wanted to give you a sense of the surrounding area. I know this is a busy slide, so I just want to highlight a few aspects. First of all, right across Harris Avenue to the north is 12030 Yonge Street, which council approved for an 8-story mixed-use development last year. There are also a number of new townhouse developments down Harris Avenue, which are also under construction. And to the south of the site is an existing townhouse development, which is really the only real neighbors right now that the site has. There's also commercial plazas to the north and south, both of which have important amenities like grocery stores, restaurants, banks, and they're both about a 15-minute walk from the site. There is a Viva bus stop at Yonge and Jefferson, which is less than 300 meters from the site. And this is in the Oak Ridges Moraine, and there are a number of natural heritage areas which cannot be developed, including directly across the street on Yonge Street. I think Giuseppe had a great slide that showed how the whole other side of Yonge Street is Oak Ridges Moraine. So the development concept, as mentioned, is a 10-story mixed-use condominium building with 119 residential units and 269 square meters of ground floor commercial space. This rendering shows the view if you were looking from the middle of Yonge and Harris intersection. There's also 162 parking spaces proposed in 3 levels of underground parking. So this slide shows the site plan with the proposed landscaping. The building is designed to be loaded onto the corner with larger setbacks and landscape buffers as you get closer to the townhouses to the south and west. The site access is from Harris Avenue and opens into a large driveway to allow for loading and unloading, as well as fire and waste truck turnaround. We are proposing to have the commercial area fronting onto Yonge Street to activate the street. There is an existing sidewalk with a landscape strip on Yonge Street, so we would be enhancing and improving that area. And we also have a required road widening dedication on Yonge Street. Along Harris Avenue, we're proposing an amenity space as well as residential units with terraces at ground level. And there is not an existing sidewalk on Harris Avenue, so we would be adding one. So this slide shows the elevations from different viewpoints. And again, this just emphasizes that the massing is concentrated at the street corner and that the building is designed to frame both streets. There are step backs to the south to meet angular plane requirements for the existing townhouses. And the building is L-shaped to ensure appropriate setbacks and angular plane from the under construction townhouses to the west. So this elevation shows the view from the townhouses to the south and the angular plane towards the under construction townhouses to the west. Because the building is set back so far from the western property line, that side does meet angular plane despite not having the step backs that you see to the south. And although it appears that there's a corner that's encroaching, that's actually just a noise wind barrier on the roof deck and not an actual floor. So as was mentioned, the site is designated regional mixed-use corridor, which permits the use but not the proposed height or density. So that's why we're requesting an official plan amendment. Also, just briefly on zoning, at the time of the application submission, the lands were zoned UR under bylaw 128-04, which did not allow the proposed use. I understand the lands were recently rezoned, but that decision was appealed. Giuseppe and I had a conversation. We'll need to work out the technical details of what zone it will be in the future, but we'll work with planning staff on that. Really just want to get into the details of the site-specific request so we can figure out the actual zone later. So since the zoning is in flux, what I did is create a comparison table with our request and what was approved at 12030 Yonge Street, which is that project directly across Harris Street to the north. So both projects propose an apartment building with ground floor commercial space. The setbacks are similar. I think the differences are mainly due to site-specific considerations, what your neighboring properties are. But I do want to highlight that our project actually has 25% less units and a higher proportion of family-sized units than what was approved across the street. On this slide, what I really want to highlight is the height. Although we are requesting 10 stories and it was 8 stories approved across the street, the actual height of the building is essentially the same. We are requesting 37.5 meters, which includes the mechanical penthouse. And the project was approved for 30 meters plus up to 7 meters of projections. So it's essentially the same height of building, it's just a different way of wording it. I also want to highlight that our requested density is lower. We have more parking and we're proposing more outdoor amenity space, but overall the projects are very similar. It's appropriate for this area. So just in summary, the lands are, as mentioned, designated for a regional mixed-use corridor. Yonge Street is a regional transit corridor. The site is very close to a Viva bus stop. I know the city is looking to provide those transit supportive densities near Viva bus stops. However, as I mentioned, development in the area can only happen on the west side of Yonge due to the Oak Ridges moraine on the other side. And really, in order to provide those densities, there just has to be more density on this side of Yonge, and I think that's why you're seeing proposals coming in for a higher height than what is allowed by the official plan. So we feel that the development is in line with what was approved and is also compatible with the area. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. The next person registered to speak is Jim Kotsopoulos from JKO Planning Services. Mr. Kotsopoulos, you've got 5 minutes to address council. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and staff and the public. Jim Kotsopoulos, 27 Field Flower Crescent, Richmond Hill. And Mr. Mayor, tonight I'm here on behalf of Metropole Developments, Inc. and 9089802 Canada Corp. And Mr. Mayor, those are the developers for the adjacent medium density residential developments that have been shown by both staff and the applicant. And they're more commonly referred to as Harris North and Harris South, Mr. Chair. And they've been very active over the last 5 to 7 years within this vicinity. Mr. Chair, I'm before you tonight to address the issue that involved Metropole's recent construction and completion of the full urbanization of Harris Avenue. And that would be, Mr. Chair, the first 200 meters of Harris Avenue, originating from Yonge Street and moving westerly to roughly where Grange Drive is. And Mr. Chair, that not only included the urbanization, but also the extension and full construction of the services being sanitary, sewer, and water main. And on that basis, Mr. Chair, and as you saw from the site plan, there are obviously some benefiting landowners as a result of that urbanization. One of them being 12030 Yonge Street, which is also being referred, and also the subject development currently before you tonight. So in this regard, Mr. Chair, we would ask that council and staff be sensitive to the issue of this construction, so there could be the appropriate provisions made at the appropriate stage of this development in order to facilitate the cost recoveries that would be applicable on a prorated basis from the abutting landowners that would benefit from the, of course, recently completed urbanization. So, Mr. Chair, we realize before you tonight are the official plan and zoning bylaw amendments for 11 Harris. And obviously they would not be appropriate for that type of condition to be imposed. However, Mr. Chair, Metropole would like to go on the record throughout these stages, and we would be seeking the same request for this application when the applications for plan of subdivision and draft plan of condominium would be before you. So we would start right now with the OP and the zoning, Mr. Chair, and we would appreciate council's consideration of this request. And those are my comments this time, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kotsopoulos. And now we'll turn it over to the public. So is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to council about this particular application? Don't be shy. We're very, very friendly up here.
All right.
Just if you could just state your name and address, sir, before you speak, and you got 5 minutes to address council.
Right. My name is Ray Xiao. It's 95 Settlement Crescent, Richmond Hill. So the So we are more concerned in this amendment for this apartment, for this condo, because it's raising the height from the 8th to 10th floor. And we concern is it's getting more congestion on the traffic in the area. And we have a relatively small area for park for neighborhoods right now. We're introducing another maybe 100 something unit in, so it's a pretty big number. Sorry about English second language stuff.
That's great.
I hope I understand stuff.
No, you're doing fine.
Yeah, right. So so the neighborhoods, this neighborhoods is more concerning that it's getting more congestion. And the other thing is when they're raising the height of this building, it's apparently going to hurt the privacy of the neighborhoods because a whole bunch of low rise. Originally, I heard it's 6 floors, so it's pretty reasonable. And now it's like 10, almost double the original plan. So I'm pretty sure the neighborhood is pretty concerned their privacies. It's not as the same as previously before. And the other thing is the traffic. So there's right pretty much like 100 meters away is a place for a school bus picking up people. And we have one traffic light. It's not a traffic light, just a stop sign. So getting more people there is making the neighborhood, the kids, feel unsafe. So all these things. So we would like asking the panel to consider this situation. Maybe we should stick with the original plan instead of raising the height and approve this amendment. That's it. Hope I speak myself.
No, thank you very much, sir. That was very well said. And so we'll, as I said at the beginning of the meeting, the purpose of tonight's meeting is to take all the input from the public and from council and send it back to staff. This is the very beginning of the process, so
Okay.
we'll be going from there. So thank you very much. And is there anybody else that would like to speak at this time? Come on up, man. Can you just state your name and address for the record, and you've got 5 minutes to address council.
Yeah, this is Ming Xiaxi. My address is 9 Grange Drive, Richmond Hill. So I heard this plan actually last year as well, and unfortunately I didn't get a chance to join that meeting. And we collect some feedback from our neighborhood. I think the main concerns, there are several things. The first thing, talk about the height and the density. Is a 60% increase, based on the limits, 6-story, and for the density, 65% increase. And another thing, this area is not a primary public transit station area. Therefore, this type of high density development should not be approved. The second thing is because our neighborhood is mainly a townhouse or the detached house. So this is height. This height of the building will impact our privacy and shadowing and all those. We feel that's a oppressive impact. Another thing is that all those people pay really a lot of money to buy the house because the community is so quiet. Now you have this building that will decrease our property values as well. The third thing is if we go to the source, there's 19th Avenue. So we know the Elgin Mills and the Major Mac, that part is very crowded. Usually if we go to work, now we are trying to go to the Stockville to make our traffic better. Now if that corner is the only location we can go a little bit faster, it will stuck there 100%. So if they have some visitor or some commercial vehicle, maybe make it worse. The number 4 is for the green space. I know the lady mentioned that, the east is a conservation, that areas, but it's not just bypass that young, it does not need to be considered. So I think this one is our concern as well. Another thing is that higher population demands will impact, the park. In our area, we have very, very small, the community park. Now, if this 10-story building will make the situation worse, and also other resources. for the schools, for the healthcare. And the green space we already discussed, and yeah, I think that's my main concern about this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to council? As I said, we're very friendly. We really are. Going once, going twice, nobody? All right. I gave you my best sales job, but not good enough. All right, so I'll bring this back to council. This is a Ward 4 location, so we'll bring this back to Councillor Tree. And if you'll move a motion to refer all comments back to staff.
Sure, I will move the motion.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for our residents come to here to City Hall. I know you're driving a little bit far because that's Jefferson said area is usually need 20 minutes come down here. So appreciate all the effort you come here to listen to this park meeting. Basically, I do have a few questions. So the first one is this location have been discussed before, I remember. So it was 2024, it was 2023. What's the time we discussed that original plan for 8 stories?
Through the chair to Councillor Tree, it was in 2024.
Yeah, so I remember that time being, I don't like that original plan, even it's 8th floor. So, and now it's bumping to 10th floor, just within less than 1 year. So, I just want to echo a few things, right? So for me, it's really wasting the staff's efforts. It's really wasting the residents' time as well. Beginning of this proposal, it was only 6th floor, and now it become almost 10, almost doubled. So from the design perspective or the KDA areas perspective, is there any specific KDAs or PSMI related with this specific location?
Sorry, through the chair, can you repeat your question?
PM protected public transit area. Is there any regional regulations there?
Through the chair to Councillor Tree, there's this particular site is not in proximity to a PMTSA, nor is it within a PMTSA.
Okay, for the neighborhood, because I know just right behind this proposal, there will be 88 townhouses nearby, just that hasn't been constructed yet. So is there any enough buffers or privacy distance from this proposed land to the one behind it?
So the only, through the chair to Councillor Tree, the only policies that require transition is the angular plane policies, which the applicant does meet on both the west and the south side of the building as it relates to the existing low-rise to the south and the ones to be constructed to the west.
Okay, as I know, we did have in-field research for the Harris and the beach, the areas. So is this piece of land being considered in the previous in-field research report?
Through the chair to Councillor Tree, this site is considered to be a site for mixed-use development in the Harrison-Phil study.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Also, I want to add comments here. If you look at around Yonge Street from Agate Mills or 19th Street until Ward 1, which is Old Colony, we don't have such high building at all. The maximum is either 2 or 3 storage buildings for the entire community. It's not only a small portion, it's really a big portion. On the east side, that's a temple and also a church. We know this reserved area, there's nothing, right? Just only 1 or 2 storage. And this one, if we prove, even for 8 storage, is the highest building across 2 big blocks. We have nothing here. And now this might become a 10. It's gonna be a symbol for the entire Ward 1, Ward 2, plus Ward 4. So in the north side, we are knowing there might be certain of the high buildings, close community like, Ward 1, there might be along Yonge Street, Old Colony areas. But this area, lot of pond here, lot of reserve area forest here. We're not expecting those high buildings around down here. So I don't like this plan. Same as last time when the port was only 8 storage, The traffic problem, we talk about a lot. Even today, residents did not come here. But I'll give you more information here. This is the 110 dwellings. Right behind, that's gonna be another 88 townhouses, which is not constructed yet. On the south side, which is behind that car dealers, I believe that's gonna be 100 townhouse, which will be finished very soon. Just behind the settlement, there's another part of Harris Street. Last week, city passed, I believe, 33 townhouses, houses plus others. And now, just beside south of Jefferson side, we have big project there delivered by the Countrywide. So they are building houses as well. So in this piece of land, we are seeing a lot of constructions, also the new proposal here. It will be a very high densities. In the past 2 years, I believe everyone driving along Jefferson side, right? The trucks park on the street. We receive tons of complaints. I receive tons of complaints for the constructions. Imagine this one will be built up inside our own community. Whenever you're coming from Townwoods or coming from Harris or coming from settlements, we can expect around maybe 300 family there. Many cars will be there. There's only one entry, and you have to make a right turn. You cannot make a left turn. I remember that one last time, our Deputy Mayor Godwin Chan mentioned that one. There's going to be no traffic light again for left turn. So the only thing is available is right turn. So traffic really is my concern as well. Safety is also my concern too.
Okay, next speaker I have is Councillor Davidson. You'll second the motion? Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to everybody who came, and thank you for the presentations. I have to agree with my colleague. I do think that this is too much for this corner. This corner, it is on Yonge Street, but there is no express bus. There's no bus to any of the GO stations. There's like the GO train, there's no transit way. This is not a high transit area, and I would encourage anyone to go up to Oak Ridges and try to go north or south in this area on any of the busy times of day. And I agree that this area is up for development, but we can't look at it in isolation. We have to look at it with the other townhouses, the other buildings that have been approved, and we're just going to load up the roads without a long-term plan for transit. So we're basically saying if we build these 10 stories, we're going to put that many more cars on the road, because honestly, there's not a viable transit alternative unless you can walk to work. It's just not a place for more and more traffic. It's extremely frustrating for the people that already live there. And as Councillor Tree said, good luck coming and going, because Deauville ends there, it's a T intersection, and Jefferson Side Road is a T intersection, and the absolute nightmare of the congestion there is already a frustration with people who live there, and will continue to grow as we add the density. So I do think 10 stories is too high. I'm also looking at the site plan. My question, I don't see area here for green space. It feels like so much of this spot is either building or driveway. So I don't see a lot of recreational area for the people that are living there. I don't see where you're going to store your snow. I mean, maybe it's here somewhere and I've missed it. Through you, Mr. Chair, to staff, is there only one in and out? Is that what I'm seeing? There's only one entrance and one exit on Harris?
Through the chair to Councillor Davidson, it's only one access from Harris Avenue.
So through you, Mr. Chair, knowing the areas I do, that is so close to the light at Jefferson and Yonge, that's going to be a nightmare for people trying to get in and out of this. It's going to be a nightmare for the people trying to travel along Jefferson Side Road. I don't see one entrance with this many people, 10 stories, this many units, that many cars. It doesn't work. So I think the applicant needs to rethink this. I don't, those are my comments for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Regional Councillor Chan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, staff, for the presentation and the delegates, and thank you, sir, for saying what you want to share with us. Thank you. And I think some of you I noticed who might not have been spoken to us, but your mere presence, I think I got the message. Also by virtue of your clapping. I'm not looking for clapping, but having said that, through Mr. Chair, I do want to seek some facts because the applicant's agent make reference to, I believe, 12030 Yonge Street as a comparison. Now, this particular site is 0.8 acres, which is relatively small for this size of building. The question is, what would be the size, relatively speaking, just roughly, for the reference that was made from Mr. Chair, 12, I think 12030, I think that's on Yonge. Are we comparing, or are we actually being presented with compare apples to apples in terms of the size of the lot? That's what I'm getting at.
Through the chair to Councillor Chen, I don't have the exact lot configuration of 12030 Yonge Street. I'd have to get that to you. The site configuration is more of a square on this site versus more of a rectangular site configuration. The site just visually appears to be larger on the 12030 Yonge Street, but I'd have to report back on terms of the precise lot size in comparison.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the response. I mean, as I was saying, the reason I asked that because council, the public is being shown that as compared to this one. So I just want to make sure that in some way they are really appropriate comparison. So putting that aside, I think the local councillor and Councillor Davidson already raised all those issues, concern about the access, the traffic, and of course the focus has been talked about height. And if you look at the staff report, I know it's not the reading most people like to read, but consistently is not exceed, it's all sung in a negative way. So if we were making a decision today, I will venture to say chances are is not going to approve it, but we are not there yet. However, I do see that, and I hope the applicant's agent will bring it back, go back to the drawing board, have something more appropriate for a site of this size. Like the height people have mentioned, to me, it's just one of the measures you look at. But to me, height is not the issue. The whole issue is the appropriateness of the development for this particular site. And it's also interesting and telling is that the four scenarios, I make reference in report of the particular infill study for this neighborhood. High rise of this nature is not in any of the four scenarios. So I think that's very telling. So I very much encourage the applicant through the agent, or if you're listening, go back to the drawing board, look at again what I understand. You're going to maximize the return for this land, but to me, it's a long way to go. What's it present to us doesn't seem to go, at least at this point in time, even with any particular positive check off from the staff report. So go back and restart the process, please. Thank you. Those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, and through you, the chair. I believe I understand where it's about making comparisons that, really the applications really have to stand on their own based on the merits of the particular subject land that they're trying to work with. But we can't help but compare, that's what we do. The building to the north, I understand it's 8 stories. Is it considered high-rise or is that considered mid-rise?
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, 5 to 8 stories is considered mid-rise. Anything above 9 stories is considered high-rise.
Right. Thank you so much. And so the moment we step into high-rise, there's a whole host of other different considerations that have to come into play on something like that. I noticed in the, I think it was on page 8 in the report, that at the time of the report, the bylaw 3025 was still under appeal. Has that changed at this point?
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, no. Bylaw 30-25 is under appeal and no OLT proceedings have been scheduled to date.
Okay. And would this have, so let's say at some future point that gets resolved, will that have an impact on what is being contemplated for these subject lands?
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, so the bylaw 30-25 actually implements the official plan as it's currently constituted. So it would implement as of right the 6 stories that's permitted as in the OP and the density of 2.0, I believe. So that's what the bylaw 30-25 would permit as of right. And then anything beyond that would be subject to Planning Act applications. So the applicant would, so a lot of these applications that are in kind of in the midst of the bylaw coming into force and effect would have to reconcile site-specific zoning to facilitate their proposal if it's beyond the parameters of 30-25 subject to council approval.
Right, thank you. Through the chair. So I'm assuming that the building that on the northwest corner, that's exactly what they had to do as well then at that time.
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, no. So they had an approval in a zoning bylaw passed prior to the passing of 30-25. So if you had that scenario, you either were carved out of the current zoning bylaw 30-25, or you were determined to be legal, you'd be determined to be legal non-conforming, or you would be transitioned if you had a site plan application and you complied with the zoning bylaw. So there's a couple of scenarios that apply. Likely, this particular proposal doesn't have a site plan application, I believe. So they would have to request to be carved out of the 30-25 to maintain their site-specific standards that are applicable to this site.
Thank you. Through the chair, that's very educational. I think you were a teacher in a previous life here. Those are all my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is Councillor Silovitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to everybody for speaking here this evening and for the staff report. I just have a couple of questions through you to staff. Is this piece of land included in the Harris Beach, I can't remember if it's secondary plan or tertiary plan, but I know there's another plan in place here. Is this piece of land a part of that, or is it outside of its boundaries?
Through the chair to Councillor Silovitz, it's part of the Harris Beach neighborhood infill study.
Thank you. Neighborhood infill study. That's what my brain was trying to remember. And with regard to that infill study, through you, Mr. Chair, how does this particular proposal gel with what is proposed for the infill study, which was approved by council?
Through the chair to Councillor Silovitz, so the infill study did contemplate mixed-use development in a 6-story format with a 2.0 FSI. So this is a site that was contemplated for mixed-use development. So from that from a land use perspective, this was always contemplated on this site. However, in terms of the height and density, it was not contemplated at this height or this density as proposed.
Thank you. That's I believe that's a very important factor here, and I would urge the applicant to continue discussions with our staff and with the local councillor and with our regionals as well, because this is Yonge Street, to attempt to build something here that is in keeping with that infill study, because that infill study took a very long time to come through council. It had a lot of public consultation. I was involved in it, and during that term, and I believe that it would be prudent for the applicant to be aware of and have regard for that infill study. I believe that's a very important, as I said before, very important factor to this particular application and attempt for construction at this particular site. Thank you very much. That's it.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Liu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I too agree with Councillor Tree and other colleagues that this is too high and it's too dense. Just out of curiosity, so in the staff report, it says it's required a stage 2 archaeological assessment. What is that, and how the result of this affect this application? Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Through the chair to Councillor Leo. So I don't have the details of this. I used to know this back in the day when I was doing a lot more greenfield development, so I apologize. But a stage 1 is typically the first stage of archaeological assessment. And one that is undertaken if there is something found that may warrant further investigation, it is recommended that a stage 2 is done. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything there. There may just be something that triggers a stage 2 investigation, which is in this case has the stage 1 that was undertaken suggests that a stage 2 is appropriate to do for the site, and that may determine a number of things. If there is a historical findings underground, if there are other things worthy of conservation and preservation. So we will look to getting the stage 2 archaeological assessment done and registered with the ministry to determine if the site is safe for development.
Thank you very much. And one last comment is about the design. I think, no matter it's 8 stories, 6 stories, or 10 stories, the design needs a lot of improvement, my personal opinion. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Hsu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation. Based on my understanding, the applicant is now applying for an exception to designate the subject land as regional mixed-use corridor in order to accommodate the proposed height of 10 stories and FSI 3.3. So my first question is, usually in what kind of situations can the city make an exception for an applicant like this case? Is there any reference we can get in the past experience the city can make an exception for applicant?
So through the chair to Councillor Hsu, so the lands are actually designated regional mixed-use corridor. Depending on the context along the regional mixed-use corridor across the city, there are different heights and densities permitted. So in the regional mixed-use corridor further south, for example, higher heights and densities are allowed. As the regional mixed-use corridor goes through the city, where the context warranted a lower height and density, that's what was applied. In this instance, this stretch of the regional mixed-use corridor was limited to 6 stories and 2.0 FSI. So the applicant, as you know, the applicants can come in and request anything from the city. They can request to redesignate, they can request a site-specific exception, which is why they have an official plan amendment application before council. And then we determine, staff will evaluate and make recommendations, and council has the right to approve or refuse. But there is nothing to prohibit the applicant from making the application. They can make whatever request that they would like, and then it is up to council to make the determination if they agree or disagree.
Okay, got it. My next question is, can the applicant now appeal to OLT through Mr. Chair?
Through the chair, I believe the application was deemed complete on January 20th. They are past the 120 days for a zoning bylaw amendment, so they may be in a position to appeal. I think it's a little bit longer. It's 180 days for official plan amendment, which they're not quite there yet.
Okay, that's interesting. So according to the staff report, this application does not include any affordable housing units. And I think the applicant could work further on this aspect. And if the applicant appeals to OLT and wins, just in case, would they still be required to meet the minimum affordable housing requirements and revise the application accordingly, or be allowed to proceed without including any affordable units? Through Ms. Chair.
Through the chair, the OLT can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
So they could impose that requirement, they could not impose that requirement. The city's official plan really isn't what they are looking to necessarily consider. They may consider it as part of their evaluation of the proposal, but they can impose whatever conditions they want, which may or may not include the provision for affordable housing.
That's too bad, because what I'm concerned is because this application does not include any affordable housing units. That's what I'm concerned about. And I hope the applicant could work further on this aspect. That's all my comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I'll just make a few comments. Just to actually, before, I just want to confirm, the infill study that this area has is it 10 years old now? If it's getting very close, if it's not, right? Okay.
Through the chair, it's 11 years old.
Oh my goodness, time flies when you're having fun. So I want to add, like, I think that this is too much density for this particular area. There's no question I think that, and that's not uncommon. When applicants come in for the first time, there's some negotiations, some trimming, some cutting, some modifications that need to happen. That's exactly why we're in this process. So I mean, I've been on council now for quite some time, and that's usually the way things play out. I really am glad that Councillor Hsu, though, brought it up. The Ontario Land Tribunal is a way for applicants that don't agree with the decision that's made on a council to appeal. And once it gets appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal, it's completely out of council's hands. The Ontario Land Tribunal makes the decision. And so the thing is with the Ontario Land Tribunal is that it does keep both the applicants and the council and our staff and the residents at the table talking, because it's always better, in my opinion, for us to be making decisions collaboratively. And when you're making a decision collaboratively in a case like this, oftentimes there are compromises that need to be made on all parts. So I just want to, I guess as mayor, sometimes I have to deliver maybe a perspective the way I see it. And while I agree with a lot of what's being said on council today, and as I said, I think that probably as the way it's being proposed at the moment, it's probably a bit bigger than it needs to be. But I think it's important for residents to understand that something is going to get built there, right? And it's going to be like, as of right, the builder could build a 6-story building, and it's never exactly 6. It may be a little more, maybe a little bit less. But I think what we're trying to do throughout this process is make sure that all of the concerns that you have about infrastructure in your neighborhood, traffic in your neighborhood, because that came up a few times, sight lines, shadows, impacts, all that other stuff, all of those things need to be considered as the staff goes through this process. So there will be some negotiations. I believe that I would encourage the applicant to continue with those negotiations and see where we can find compromises to make this application the very best it can be. The fact that there are other applications going on in that area right now does have to be considered, but that has been considered when the infill study happened. We knew that this was going to happen, and I must admit, I was brand new on council when this infill study happened, and so far, most of the applications that have come forward in that area have been pretty much what the infill study has asked for. I mean, it might be a little bit more, it might be a little bit less, but generally speaking, that neighborhood is developing exactly the way we expected that it would based on the infill study. And that's good news. But the thing that we need to understand is that 10 years ago, we didn't have a housing crisis, and the provincial legislation that guides what we can and can't do on council was very different. So there, by my colleagues here, I thank you very much, everybody, for coming to this tonight, and especially coming in person. So I think we've got our some comments that we need to be bringing forward to our staff for them to do some analysis and homework, and the applicant, I think they have heard what needs to be done in order for us to come to a good conclusion on this. So with that being said, okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mayor. So I do have a few comments here as well. The first round used up my time. So I just want to comment for the feedback around 12030 Yonge Street, which is currently the auto store. That was approved 2024 with FSI 3. Let me get the detail number, 3.556 SFP. The height of that north side is 8 stories, if you want to compare. The density is a little bit high because it's 3.56. The unit is 156. You can imagine, right? If you drive out from Harris on your south side, 156. No, on your north side. On the south side, you maybe have 100 bill just at that entry. You can imagine 2 high buildings really along the Yonge Street and a single lane in and out. That is one of the things I want up to you. My second required concern here is the entertainment. End of the day, we build up our communities, build up buildings for what? For a better life. If you look this area, we say it's Richmond Hill, Jefferson Side, Block G or Block H, right? There's only one tiny park. Very, very tiny. You can imagine, end of the day, we have tons of townhouses built up. We have houses built up. There's only one tiny playground. If you imagine, I drove there a few times because of noise issues. At nighttime, 11 p.m., there's a lot of kids play basketball there. Lights is so bright as well. Very, very tiny. Imagine 10 years later, if you set up and build up everything, this community become mature. Only tiny playground for all the residents come to here by walking distance. That's going to be a problem for our community, right? The second one is traffic. I worked with Philip many times, also with bylaw officers as well. So along the Harris Street and also the German and the Ryan and River Street, because when the kids or drivers driving through from Jefferson side, they did not go to Yonge Street directly. They're using this path from Settlement going to the Yonge Street. They're driving very crazy. So we're looking for stop signs there as well, but unfortunately, traffic team side, no, this is not good condition. For now, yes. If in future we have more and more traffic inside our community, the traffic will be a big concern for our community, right? So if someone sitting in the Yonge Street, they cannot find the parking lot, they might drive a little bit, just 20 meters from Yonge Street, come to our community, especially around the park area. That's going to be a disaster for the people who live in there. I already got tons of complaints for noises, for lights, for car chasings. I believe if there's more and more buildings, there might be more problems. So the purpose here is we design our proposals, buildings for our community, a better way people living there, and give them a more comfortable and a more safe environment so they have time to enjoy the beauty of nature. That is my comment. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you. Through the chair, cost recoveries were brought up earlier by Mr. Kotsopoulos, and I just wanted to find out, is this the proper forum for that, or is there something that should be a little more formal when it comes to cost recoveries?
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, so the city does have a best efforts approach to cost recoveries. It is appropriate that typically it's a subdivision to subdivision scenario where we can request a condition of approval that ensures that cost recoveries for works that were upfronted by one landowner is prorated so that the other benefiting landowners pay their proportionate share. In this instance, because it's not a plan of subdivision, it's appropriate that they bring it up now and we will determine, staff will determine at what stage it's appropriate to impose, where applicable and appropriate, the cost recovery clauses.
Okay, much appreciated. Those are all my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so we have a motion in front of us then to refer all comments back to staff. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. And finally, a motion to adjourn. Councillor Davidson, Councillor Liu, all those in favor?